you have to assume that any white person you meet is racist.
Why would you assume that?
Who has been accused of threatening rape.
He never did that. That is a lie Sneeko told. Zayn is pushing a false rape allegation in the same video he's crying about being slandered for his film analysis.
There is this thing that the internet does, where one person says something that is false but sounds believable and is tangentially related to what actually happened.
I hate it.
He is friends with Mutahar, who argued against Andrew Tate being deplatformed from social media websites.
Is Mutahar?
Wendigoon lives somewhere just on the other side of the reservation.
Okay, that's really weird. Okay.
That is not me doxing him.
Today we're going to be talking about the most politically brain-rotted video I have ever seen, coming from the horror community of all places. Calling every big content creator who held a gun a far-right YouTuber, getting every detail wrong.
He is friends with Mutahar, who argued against Andrew Tate being deplatformed from social media websites, and has recently showcased a great deal of transphobia in his most recent video.
Oh no, this guy hasn't watched anything. This guy will pearl clutch at every opportunity while at the same time pushing harmful stereotypes, like saying that everyone who lives in Appalachia is a racist.
Deep Appalachia is very white country, and for the most part, is exceptionally racist.
How do you even quantify that? What is that? Maybe he does in his video. I don't know.
Genuinely in this part of the country, you have to assume that any white person you meet is racist unless they show you otherwise.
And then he legitimately tries to use
Why?
White person you meet is racist.
Why would you assume that? Why only the white people? Are white people the only people that could be racist? It's such a precious American take. I love that. Our minorities are precious over here. White people are the only people that can exhibit racism.
But why would this guy push so hard to frame Wendigoon as a racist? Well, it's because he wants to gatekeep the horror movie review genre. I'm not gonna make it through this.
So what if he's a conservative? Is that a problem? Which the answer to that is yes. But the reason that I care...
Absolutely giga chatted up. Okay, so what? Is it really a problem just because he's a conservative? Yes, that is a problem.
Is that a problem? Which the answer to that is yes. But the reason that I care is because this does not belong in horror or anywhere. I care deeply about horror, and everything that he does has demonstrated so far in his career that he should not be welcomed in our spaces.
It all just reminds me of Hassan saying the word cracker isn't racist and then repeatedly using it in the most racist way possible.
Crime of using the C word, cracker.
Did I say, oh my God, saltine cracker? Like people are just bitter because it's saltine cracker. That's not what I said, you dumb cracker bitch.
Cracker this, cracker that. All this talk of crackers is making me hungry, but I don't want some sugary snack. Good thing I have Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon is cereal with the same great taste you remember with grown-up ingredients. 140 calories, 0 sugar, gluten-free cereal that still has the same taste you loved as a kid. Coming in frosted, peanut butter, cocoa, and my personal favorite, fruity. It tastes like the highest quality version of the same...
Why did he choose this flavor? He's got to be memeing. It's got to be a bit.
Stuff you ate as a kid. It really does bring me back to my childhood. I think it's the only cereal I've eaten that has swag. I love the branding. It's adult cereal that still has the games on the box. Do I need
Does he play these games? Show me the rest of your sugar boxes. I want to see it.
to say more? Why'd they make the maze so hard? It's
I guess actually these are no sugar cereals. Never mind. Not fair. That was mean.
People who are carb conscious with 4 to 5 grams of net carbs, no artificial ingredients, and 13 grams of protein. See, this buff guy loves it, so you will too. And if you somehow don't like it, Magic Spoon will give you a full refund, no questions asked. That's how confident they are in their product. My mom's been begging me to work with Magic Spoon. She's been eating their cereal for years, so if you want to be cool like me and my mom, go to magicspoon.com/Willy or scan the QR code and use code Willy at checkout to get $5 off any order. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this video.
Nobody even wants you here.
In Praise of Shadows, also known as Zane, is a horror movie review YouTuber. He loves focusing on the political analysis of film and relating everything back to being left-leaning, which is fine, it's his content, but it does come off as a bit cringe at times. He reviewed The Hills Have Eyes.
This is a film about cannibals killing and eating a family who get lost on their summer vacation. And psychologically, most when they watch this will be on the side of the vacationing family and wish for them to survive and make it out and get back home. And why is that?
It's because they're cannibals.
Because if you look at this from the perspective of the Hill people, they are only defending what is theirs, this land that they call home. To say that the Hill people and the New Yorkers are of the same nation would only be true in the strictest definition.
Wait, hold on, am I getting memed on? Hold on. Is it just like the f***ing commie analysis of all? Is it just like when Emma was like, I went and saw Dune 2 and nobody can watch this movie without thinking of the Palestinians? Is that...
Cringe at times. He reviewed The Hills Have Eyes.
This is a film about cannibals killing and eating a family who get lost on their summer vacation. And psychologically, most when they watch this will be on the side of the vacationing family, and wish for them to survive and make it out and get back home. And why is that?
It's because they're cannibals.
Because if you look at this from the perspective of the Hill people, they are only defending what is theirs, this land that they call home. To say that the Hill people and the New Yorkers are of the same nation would only be true in the strictest definition, in that they happen to live within the same borders, but culturally, they couldn't be more different. The Hills Have Eyes is a clash of when you take two types of people who hold absolute contempt for one another, and then you proceed to call them both American and equals, who supposedly have the same opportunities at birth.
Oh, my bad. I guess it's about BLM in January 6th. He ended up getting memed on quite a bit for this video, with the top comment saying, "This video, the family had a flat tire and momentarily tried to retrieve their lost dog. So who's the real murdering cannibalistic rapist here? It was self-defense. I don't know. It's weird to say someone's invading your land when all that happened is they crashed their car and went looking for their lost dog."
And as he falls to the ground, the symbol of inherited generational wealth, education, and power stands over his already dying body and stabs him repeatedly in the heart. Not to kill him, which at this point is already an inevitability, but to remind him of his place.
Or maybe it was just to kill the cannibal that attacked him and his family. I don't know, just my interpretation. The reason why we're talking about this is because he dropped a 3-hour-long video titled Bad Conservative Horror Movies, which is not about conservative movies at all. The video is split into 3 parts. Part 1 is calling everyone stupid for not agreeing with his Hills Have Eyes review and blaming his audience's stupidity for his channel dying.
I don't think that most of them have actually even watched it, and I kind of want to look at this, because posting that video was a huge negative turning point in my life, and the way that that one video was received has really impacted everything around me. Before that, I was relatively comfortable financially. I could make the kinds of videos that I wanted to, and have honestly struggled very badly ever since then.
Rate the fit. This looks like a blouse top to me, but it might just be an ordinary t-shirt and I'm just getting mind by the like native garb, the whatever jacket, or maybe it's just like a really big t-shirt. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's not like I need to see we need a full outfit view. Okay. We need to back up and take some shots.
Honestly, struggled very badly ever since then.
He's like, nobody treats me like a person anymore, despite none of the comments being that bad.
They don't even treat me like a person.
He's so dramatic. Of course you're going to lose viewers if you're going to gatekeep horror movies from everyone who's not extremely left-leaning.
Horror is an intrinsically left, punk, anti-establishment, countercultural art form that is
that true?
Horror is an intrinsically left, punk, anti-establishment, countercultural art form that is primarily concerned with social issues and pushing boundaries beyond what is deemed acceptable by traditional, more conservative, polite society. There's no other way that you can rationally look at it and still exist within reality.
The vast majority of viewers just want to see the scary thing and hear the scary story. Of course you're going to lose viewers if you talk like a gatekeeping douchebag. He goes on to discredit every other creator who doesn't apply his same politics to their analysis.
Folks constantly talk about the political undertones of my videos, but horror is an unabashedly political genre that is concerned directly with issues facing the current society. And if you're in the horror space and you don't regularly acknowledge this foundation as a challenge to power, then I just assume you're in it for the money, or that you don't actually care, or you're just really bad at your job. And if that makes you
Like, the thing is in principle, or in theory, I would defend... I think that doing analysis of a thing in a totally different lens, or through a totally different lens, I think it'd actually be really interesting. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's when you insist that your interpretation is the most correct and there can't be other interpretations. Like, I feel like doing an analysis of a particular movie, like we're gonna watch The Nightmare on Elm Street, and we're gonna analyze like Freddy Krueger is Jesus, and I guess like the children is, I don't know, the fucking the Pharisees or whatever. I don't know. You could do, like, it'd be interesting, and you could theoretically arrive at some kind of funny insights or unique insights by doing it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So even analyzing like The Hills Have Eyes as some kind of like commentary on the capitalist structure of society, or the proletariat versus the bourgeois, whatever. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. It's just when you insist that this is like the only interpretation and any other interpretation, and then you like moralize the fuck out of it.
uncomfortable or upset that I often do that in my videos, that's probably a good thing.
It's a very pretentious video that only becomes more unself-aware when he starts to complain about the drop in viewership hurting his ability to pay bills.
There was a month last year where I only made $500 in ad revenue. I can't live off that. The amount of times that I've almost had to stop making videos since then has been almost monthly. I've barely been able to keep this afloat. I've paid my rent late most months for the past year.
Now let me get this straight. This guy isolates his viewers that aren't on the extreme left, tells them to leave and that horror isn't for them, and then cries when his viewership goes down. You can't make this up. But you know what? I still kind of feel bad for him. Living paycheck to paycheck is hard. Trying to go full-time on YouTube is also hard. But I fail to show any empathy when he's continually shooting himself in the foot, and then he's turning down sponsors.
I, as a blanket rule,
there also is an argument to be made that punk, metal, countercultural leftism have been part of horror and have a history there. Yeah, I mean, like, the more I think about it, I feel like there was probably big crossover between, like, when you've got, like, kind of like the older, yeah, like the punk metal and then, like, the goth scenes and then that aesthetic combined with, like, horror elements. Like, even, am I making this up? Didn't Rob Zombie direct he redid a horror movie. What am I thinking of? What was it, the new Halloween? Was it that? Was it other ones? Yeah, so I mean, like, it's not even really the worst take in the world. It really isn't. You probably could make... I'm just trying to think back. I'm trying to think of, like, how could I, like... So for Jason, for Friday the 13th, for Jason, how could we... How is this about... Kids go in the forest, they fuck, they get killed... I don't know how you could theme that as like any kind of lefty thing at all. For Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger, you've got kids that are complaining about things. You've got parents that aren't listening to them, that don't believe them, that don't care, that make excuses for what's happening instead. That's like arguably a little like counterculture, I guess. You're fighting against like the older generation of people that don't care about the fact that some dude is like killing everybody. I don't know. For like Hellraiser, The Cube, I don't know. I feel like it's mainly about shocking the collective conscience. Yeah, I feel like it's more just like a counterculture thing because it's like bloody and horror aspects and there's like kind of softcore pornographic elements. I feel like it's more about that than any sort of like class commentary. When I think about like at least the horror films that I grew up watching were like the campy, I think like 80s, 90s horror films.
Show any empathy when he's continually shooting himself in the foot and then he's turning down sponsors?
I, as a blanket rule, have never accepted gifts or sponsorship for my work, even though I get a constant stream of email offers about them.
This guy is just a struggling artist. He's better than us.
Either way, you sadly became full of yourself, mourning over your poor artist soul and drowning in self-pity.
Yeah, to be fair... oh no, wait, hold on. To be fair, you could make the argument that slashers often show hedonism punished, which could be a conservative perspective. I don't think conservatives view it that way. I think the chatter above who said, I don't think you can call most slashers left-wing considering they all play into conservative moral panic. Oh, wait, I thought you said the opposite thing. But the conservative moral panic was also driven by some of these films, right? Because they're like bloody and gory and they've got like boobs in them and... So it's definitely like a challenge to like conservative ideas, not like the subject matter of the film or the themes of the film, but just the fact they were willing to be shocking and everything.
But it does seem a little tone deaf to cry to your audience.
Wasn't Freddy's mom poor or some shit, and he's usually killing middle class to rich people, so you could say Freddy is the mother's revenge against the system. The honest truth is that most of those old slasher films, they would like rewrite the backstories over and over and over again, depending on what the new iteration of the film was. Technically, the origination of Freddy Krueger was he was supposed to be a guy who molested, I think, young children, and the townspeople got really ass mad at him, and he got they were all rioting outside his house, and then they set fire to his house while he was trapped inside, and he died, and that's why he's got burned skin. That's Freddy Krueger's origin. Jason's origin might have more to do with like leftist undertones, because I think Jason was I think his grandma hated him. I don't know what happened to his parents, but I think he was watched by his grandma. His grandma hated him. And then he was sent to some Camp Crystal where I think he was like special needs. I think Jason wasn't he a special needs kid? And the camp counselors were too busy like each other. And then he falls into the lake, and then and then he drowns while they're like each other basically. I'm trying to think of Chucky's origin. I think he was just a normal murderer. I think he murdered somebody, or he was shooting somebody, but he was almost getting caught by some cops. And then he was in a store, and for some reason he also practiced like magical spells, and he put his body in a doll to escape the cops trying to hunt him down. You're thinking of the 2009 version? No way. For Jason? This is and Jason 2? When did they bring up this drowning story? Was it Jason 1? Jason's mom was in it, not his grandma. It wasn't Jason's grandma. I thought it was a really old lady that hated him. Or there was like flashbacks for it or something. I don't know. I could be wrong on this. I don't remember. Friday the 13th. Jason isn't actually in Friday the 13th until the third movie. Is that true? He's briefly in the first one as a little boy corpse at the end. Who's the killer then? His mom? Oh shit, I don't know if did I never see this first one? Or maybe I just wasn't aware. They find the axe in Brenda's bed and the phone's disconnected. Steve returns and recognizes the unseen killer stabs him when the power goes out. Bill goes to check on the generator. Alice finds his body pinned with arrows to the door. She flees to the main cabin where Brenda's body is thrown through the window. Mrs. Voorhees, a middle-aged woman who claims to be a friend of Steve, arrives. She reveals that her son Jason was the young boy who drowned in 57, and she blames his death on neglect by the counselors because they were having sex instead of supervising him. Revealing herself as the killer, she attempts to kill Alice at the shore. They struggle until Alice is able to decapitate her. Exhausted, Alice falls asleep inside a canoe that floats out on Crystal Lake. When she awakens, Jason's decomposing corpse drags her into the lake, at which point she awakens in a hospital surrounded by police, sergeant, and medical staff. The sergeant says there was no sign of a boy at the lake, to which Alice says, then he's still there. Damn, I might have seen this. It's been so long, though. Friday the 13th ending is intentionally cheesy, but I like it for that reason. All of I think there were a ton of these films in the 80s and early 90s that were very campy. That was the point. Freddy Krueger is cracking jokes as he's killing people. So is Chucky is cracking jokes as he's killing people. I don't think I've ever, I don't know if I watched the very first one. Now I feel like I haven't seen this. I don't think I have. The very, very first Friday the 13th. I must not have. I guess maybe part 3 or something was the first one I watched. Does she wear the hockey mask in the original, in Friday the 13th, in this, when she's killing people? Most people didn't. No? Oh, damn. The hockey mask isn't until part 3. Huh. It's a dream sequence she wears when she's getting f***ed in the woods. Okay, sorry. We got super...
It's about bills while you're leaving money on the table. He spends the rest of the video pearl clutching. A guy wants the horror movie Abigail to gross more than Civil War, and that's somehow fundamentalist Christian language.
This is the kind of language that fundamentalist Christians use, and we are subjecting people to listening to it in relation to a moderately decent movie about vampire children eating people. But it really is that kind of Orwellian fascist idea.
A character live streams in a horror movie, and the chat says the F slur.
The comment section that is on screen at all times constantly uses slurs, including the word f*** multiple times. From what I can tell, neither Shepard nor Savage are actually queer, but I can't find conclusive evidence to say that 100%.
That's not how that word works, my dude.
Tarantino movies say the N-word and he isn't black. Is this an R-rated piece of media or not? Let's face it, we all know if the lady from Halloween was streaming, some asshole would be in the comments calling her the F-slur. A film director says he doesn't care about COVID, and Zane frames as him wanting to kill all of his employees.
I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but at least to me, when I read that, it seems that he is implying that he did not care if his...
Off topic, but did you consider CBT or anything else before opting for medication for ADD? I did a little bit, but eventually they just got so sore and I was having trouble sitting. I just didn't really want to go through that anymore.
Employees got COVID under his command and possibly died, so long as the product continued to get made and that he could get even more wealthy.
This tweet was made in 2022. Nobody cared about COVID anymore in 2022. A director was a guest on Ben Shapiro, so that means he's a Nazi.
One of his biggest crimes against horror to me is that he sat down to be a guest on the Ben Shapiro show. You know, the old 1940s phrase that roughly goes, if you have 10 people and one Nazi willingly sitting down for a meal together, then all you have is 11 Nazis. So if one film executive sits down with a fascist for a civil conversation, then all you have are 2 fascists being broadcast over the internet.
And this leads
Okay, this is f***ing so stupid. Holy shit.
into a 40-minute unhinged rant saying Wendigoon, another horror YouTuber, is a fascist along with everyone he's interacted with on Twitter. He says Wendigoon can't analyze horror content because he has money and owns a gun.
I have no need or desire to hear 5 hours of opinions on Blood Meridian from a 21-year-old millionaire who got famous around the age of 19. There are some works that fundamentally will not be understood by you if you are wealthy and have always been upper class your entire life. And this may all sound condescending, but that doesn't stop it from being somewhat true. There are many things that are red flags that we could talk about, from the bizarre gun ownership, the flagrant use from my perspective of his religion as a shield from criticism, to the belief that he at one point followed many far-right accounts on Twitter from Kyle Rittenhouse to Parler.
Of course, somebody who owns a gun is going to be supportive of
Hold on, I'm sorry. Destiny, to get back to the general point, movies aren't made in vacuums and can have themes that reflect the political movement. A lot of the 70s flicks are definitely conservative coded in the sense that the 70s was still kind of reeling from the unrest of the 60s. That's why you see a lot of the final girl trope and teenagers acting like hedonists. It was to recall the hippie movement that was happening. There is no shot that's true. I can't possibly believe that. I would need video footage of conservatives and en masse praising these old campy horror films. I don't believe you. I think that these films were probably exclusively enjoyed by non-conservative, either liberal or whatever the fuck people. There's no shot that conservative Christian going people like, oh, okay, well, we just left church. We're all going to go down and see the new Freddy Krueger movie because they punish promiscuity in it. No shot. There's no shot that it was ever the case. I don't believe it.
Kyle Rittenhouse. It's a self-defense case where Kyle was found innocent. Of course he's going to be following him. These are the most surface level observations. He owns gun. Bad. He rich. Bad. I find it funny that earlier in this same video, Discount Noah Samson says this isn't going to be a video just listing off people he hates on Twitter.
I promise that this video is not going to turn into a list of people who annoyed me on Twitter.
It's exactly that.
And I hope that this is becoming obvious to you as well. In my opinion, there is a regular pattern of behavior there, from supporting Rittenhouse to having multiple ties to other far-right extremist figures. Wendigoon is very publicly friends with Turkey Tom. They have been seen together on multiple occasions, and I've seen online mentions that Tom was either at his wedding or at the very least was invited.
When he says
What? Jesus Christ.
Wendigoon is friends with far-right fascists, I'm thinking Nick Fuentes, Baked Alaska, not Turkey Tom, the commentary YouTuber.
Tom has been accused of using the N-word multiple times in private conversations, including these screenshots of texts that are alleged to be real.
They are
Turkey Tom, November 15th, 2018. He would have been 15 years old if he's isn't he 21 now? How old is Turkey Tom? He's 21. These were 6 years, so he would have been either 15 or 16. Jesus Christ.
real. These messages Tom sent in high school will haunt them forever.
And he's also been accused of saying that the upper tiers of his Patreon were intended for Jews with deep pockets.
That's also true. Hey, you never asked. That's why you're struggling to pay your bills. Jews with deep pockets, you're welcome to join my Patreon.
Wendigoon is publicly connected to the Internet Historian, and has even appeared in his videos. The Internet Historian publicly said that his birthday was April 20th. It is not. And has only said that as a joke because that is Hitler's birthday.
Okay. Is that it? This guy doesn't explain anything. He just points out one edgy joke these people have said as if that's proof of right-wing extremism and then moves on.
Wendigoon is publicly friends with Donut Operator, and even retweeted a photograph of the two of them hugging. Donut Operator is a gun-crazed, very far-right YouTuber with 4 million subscribers.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to back this up with solid evidence.
His content is very pro-state, pro-cop, pro-gun, and pro-death to people who don't share his beliefs propaganda. For example, one of his videos is titled Predator Takes Shotgun to the Face, and features a picture of him smiling in the corner of the thumbnail next to an image of a terrified man about to be executed by cops, with the text that reads, head removal.
Did you watch the video? Donut Operator is reviewing a case where a 7-year-old was being harmed, and when the police came in, the guy reached for his gun, leading to his death. Why are you making it sound like you're against this? The criticism from Zane is missing context and is extremely bad faith.
Wendigoon seems very comfortable with a man who makes his living worshipping violence committed by the state. He's a man of no conviction, claiming to be very against the government and for the rights of the people, while at the same time giving a warm embrace to one of the biggest fascist bootlickers on the internet.
The example he used is of a pedophile. How dare Wendigoon be friends with Donut Operator, even though he supports cop-stopping pedos? What a bootlicker, a man of no conviction.
The only thing that one could reasonably gather from this picture of them hugging is that he too is a fascist bootlicker himself.
Or maybe they're friends because they have stuff in common, like making YouTube videos and liking guns. But I'm just spitballing here.
He has collaborated with Nick Crowley, who constantly makes money through the most morbid and shameful true crime content, of showcasing the last minutes of people before they are suddenly and unexpectedly killed.
Isn't that all true crime, all Forensic Files episodes? How is this evidence of anything?
He is publicly friends with Shoe on Head, who is a conservative masquerading as a leftist, who has built a career off of lazy anti-woke content, complaining.
The funny thing is, I'm pretty sure if you look at Wendigoon's Twitter, couldn't we just find like dumb shit? Because I'm pretty sure he probably is like in this like conservative camp of stuff. Couldn't we just find things that he's tweeted to have an issue with him if we want? Like what? Why do we have to do this like weird association thing? Who the f cares about this?
About SJWs, who says stuff like, Karl Marx rising from the grave finding out his movement has been taken over by fat, ugly, mentally ill losers.
He's mad because
I mean, I don't even like Shoot. She tweets a ton of retarded shit. This isn't even not true.
Rising from the grave finding out his movement has been taken over by fat, ugly, mentally ill losers.
He's mad because she's talking about him.
He is friends with Brandon Buckingham, a gun YouTuber who has been accused of threatening.
Hold up, I've watched a lot of Brandon Buckingham. He has shot guns. He is in no way a gun YouTuber. This is like saying iDubbbz or Ethan are gun YouTubers. It makes no sense. As for threatening, he never did that. That is a lie Sneeko told. Zane is pushing a false rape allegation in the same video he's crying about being slandered for his film analysis.
There is this thing that the internet does, where one person says something that is false but sounds believable and is tangentially related to what actually happened.
I hate it when people are capable of identifying phenomena, but they don't realize when they're engaging in it. And they can do it like exceedingly well. Like listening to Hassan talk about like people will take like a small clip of me and they'll take like a 20-second thing and then they'll imply a whole bunch of things that I've never said in the most dishonest framing possible. Like, yeah, bro, you like he's saying this as he has like a 4-minute TikTok compilation of me in the background with like 100 statements made over like 6 months. What's happening? What's happening in the brain here?
And then other people start to repeat it out of context, and morph it, and slowly escalate it, until it just becomes general belief, even though it is detached from reality. The cruel and untrue things that you say about another person do in fact have direct impacts on them and the way that people culturally see them.
Bro, you're doing that, but instead of it being about the hills have eyes, it's about a rape allegation, something that matters. He goes on like this for over half an hour.
He is friends with Oompaville, a gun-obsessed content creator that has taken advantage of Nakado Avocado's mental decline, for fame and for money. And on top of that, has made content with the human trafficker, Andrew Tate.
Nikocado is an act. He puts it on. This guy is so socially inept, he doesn't even realize it.
Oh! Oop! 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 That's my scooter! My precious scooter!
You just know this guy turns on WWE and thinks Triple H actually broke into Randy Orton's house. And as far as Andrew Tate, it was a respectable interview that took place before the human trafficking charges even came to fruition. He's retroactively criticizing an interview that was very well received at the time and was handled better than most mainstream media outlets.
He is friends with Mutahar, who argued against Andrew Tate being deplatformed from social media websites.
Is Mutahar problematic? I don't even know in terms of his reputation. Do people think Mutahar is like problematic? I thought he was like, I'm not trying to shit on Mutahar, but I thought Mutahar was like a very safe, like doesn't he just go after like people who do like scams and shit? Doesn't he like avoid getting into controversial stuff or?
I'm against deplatforming Andrew Tate too, and I exposed him to a greater extent than most mainstream media outlets, to the point where they would wait till my video comes out and post an article the next day citing the exact same sources I used in my video. Unless they're a convicted child predator, I'm against deplatforming because it leads to these hateful conspiratorial echo chambers that go unchallenged, festering in the background. There was a while where it seemed like every creator was getting banned, from Leafy to Jidion to Aiden Ross. It's better if everyone's just in the same place, where people can routinely make Nick look like an idiot for his worldview.
But what if we're living in the same house and there's a fight over, you know, who gets to shower when and who gets this seat on the
Holy shit! That's Snicko.
couch and who? These are the kinds of things that happen in a dense.
Wait, do you think you'd fight with him because he's black over that?
I wouldn't fight about stuff like that. And
hold I want to hear the answer to Desi's question.
Well, yeah. Would you fight more with a black person over who gets to use the shower?
Yes,
over?
yes. And here's why.
Otherwise, more people are going to turn into Sneeko. We don't need more Sneekos.
He is friends with Mutahar, who argued against Andrew Tate being deplatformed from social media websites, and has recently showcased a great deal of transphobia in his most recent video.
Is he going to give any argument for why the video is transphobic? No, of course not. It's because it isn't. So much of this video is, oh look, Wendigoon responded to a tweet and that account likes some sus stuff, as if Wendigoon is supposed to be aware of that.
What do you call people who only have sound logic when it comes to the extreme examples of things and they can't transpose that logic to more mundane examples? I think the problem is those people are usually post hoc rationalizing their particular conclusion, but you can probably engage in post hoc rationalizations in a logically coherent way, I guess, right? So like, let's say that like, for instance, let's say a guy comes into my house and I look at the guy and I'm like, this guy is black. I don't like him. Okay. So post hoc, before any reasoning has been done, we already decided, like, oh, we don't like this guy because we're racist. Okay. Fuck, we are racist. Okay. This guy, I don't like him. He's black. Now let's say that I go online and I kind of like look this guy. It's like, okay, well, let's see what we can find. Oh, okay. We've got 2 felonies. Okay. One for armed robbery, one for domestic abuse. And then I see that we've got, he engaged in some big group that went out and, you know, kicked homeless people in the face. Okay. And then I can see that he like raised money for that group of kicking homeless people in the face. He was actually the guy that raised the money to buy the steel-toed boots to kick the homeless people. Okay. So I can make a video on this guy and I can engage in all of this reasoning. It's like, okay, this guy's a really bad dude. Here's the details for 1 felony. Here's the detail for the 2nd felony. Here's how he raised money for this group to go around and kick homeless people in the face. And he engaged in this group himself. And I've laid out like a wholly consistent thing. And even though it looks like I've engaged in a good thought process, I kind of have. But what's actually happened is we've already bought the conclusion. We've already got the conclusion. And now we're going backwards to see if we can find good ways to justify it. If we can find good ways to justify it, then it looks like we're engaged in a wholly consistent rational thought process. If we can't, then we probably just make up some bullshit to justify it anyway, right? That's the issue, yeah. Or I think that's what's going on, yeah.
that. So what did Wendigoon do? Not one of his friends, not one of his followers, him. Well, apparently he started a white supremacist group.
We could talk about his past and supposedly being a founding member in an online conspiracy theory group that, according to him, snowballed out of control into being a white supremacist neo-Nazi organization called the Boogaloo Boys. His online username at the time was Boogaloo Boy, and he claims to be the first to have started using it.
Isn't that your rational on Hassan? Yeah.
But that he left the group and became Wendigoon after things started to get out of hand. And this is not a conspiracy theory in itself. Shockingly, he literally has said so in writing.
Wendigoon admitted this was him creating a meme page where it was taken over by more and more extreme people until he left. It really isn't that damning unless you're going to be extremely uncharitable, which he is.
Also, it should be noted that the Boogaloo Boys are known for wearing Hawaiian shirts. And guess who else always has...
Wait. I'm sorry. Did I miss this? Wait, did he start the Boogaloo Boys? Or was this like a page that like had a similar name that people... was he the one that started the page? Hold on.
Group that, according to him, snowballed up.
Not one of his followers, him.
How unfortunate.
Well, apparently he started a white supremacist group.
We could talk about his past and supposedly being a founding member in an online conspiracy theory group that...
a founding member. Okay. Okay, gotcha. So he's one of the early people.
According to him, snowballed out of control into being a white supremacist neo-Nazi organization called the Boogaloo Boys. His online username at the time was Boogaloo Boy, and he claims to be the first to have started using it, but that he left the group and became Wendigoon after things started to get out of hand. And this is not a conspiracy theory in itself. Shockingly, he literally has said so in writing.
Wendigoon
Shockingly, he's actually said what he's done in the past. What? Okay.
Admitted this was him creating a meme page where it was taken over by more and more extreme people until he left. It really isn't that damning unless you're going to be extremely uncharitable, which he is.
Also, it should be noted that the Boogaloo Boys are known for wearing Hawaiian shirts. And guess who else always has on a Hawaiian shirt, despite the fact that he publicly...
This is a bit of... Wait, is this ironic? Wait, are flowers not Hawaiian? Or what is a Hawaiian shirt technically? It's a bit surely this is a troll?
Totally does not share in their beliefs, guys.
Zane, it's a popular...
Oh, fuck me. Why didn't I just need to wait? I just need to wait like 5 seconds. This happens so much.
Has on a Hawaiian shirt, despite the fact that he publicly totally does not share in their beliefs, guys.
Zane, it's a popular style...
Oh, no, wait, but he was still... Wait, but no, he was still referring to Wendigoon there, wasn't he?
Also, it should be noted that the Boogaloo Boys are known for wearing Hawaiian shirts. And guess who else always has on a Hawaiian shirt, despite the fact that he publicly totally does not share in their beliefs, guys.
Wait, I thought he was referring to himself, but no, he's still referring to Wendigoon there, right? What is happening? Careful. Wait, do you have any extra cords or cables in there you're throwing away? No. Okay.
And it's a popular style of shirt. You're wearing the shirt. What's weirder, Wendigoon wearing a Hawaiian shirt because that's what he likes to wear, or this leftist wearing a Hawaiian shirt?
I don't even know if this guy's trolling about himself or is it about Wendigoon. I don't even know what's happening.
What's weirder, Wendigoon wearing a Hawaiian shirt because that...
He's wearing it ironically, but he's being serious with what he's saying. Okay, so he's wearing it as a joke, but then it's to make fun of Wendigoon, who he's saying isn't wearing it as a joke. Well, even though Wendigoon's not wearing it as a joke, he's probably just wearing it because it's his shirt. But he's saying that he's wearing it as his shirt to intentionally signal that he's still a secret Boogaloo boy.
That's what he likes to wear, or this leftist wearing a Hawaiian shirt even though he thinks it's a racist dog whistle. Is this like Vosh's tactical N-word? This video has zero research behind it, zero common sense. Zane sits there and speculates on how wealthy Wendigoon is, as if that means he can't talk about horror movies.
Not to mention the fact that Wendigoon was raised in a very wealthy family, and with that comes from a wealthy perspective. He himself has inadvertently admitted that his family at one point had millions of dollars.
My whole thing is instead of speculating this guy's apparel, why not just reach out to him and ask him questions? So I did. He said he worked at a gun store, he liked guns, so he made a meme page about guns. Around 2019, 2020, the joke became super serious to some people, who began to see it as a for the people movement, which was fine at first, but then people began to apply it to whatever their political stance was, and it became a mess, so he left. There is no evidence that Wendigoon radicalized anybody. Extremists stole the meme, that's all the evidence available. I asked Wendigoon if Zane ever reached out to him before making his video. He said no, he never reached out. There was a lot he got wrong, even objectively, that I would have been happy to clear up even for a hit piece. For instance, my parents were not rich. In the quote he even reads, I say my dad lost everything, and that was all before I was born. So Zane never even reached out for clarification before assuming the worst from this guy and everyone who's ever appeared in a photo with him. I did more-
Assuming the worst? I'm sorry. Is being wealthy the worst now? Is Willie Mack getting infected with the leftist brain rot?
Zane never even reached out for clarification before assuming the worst from this guy and everyone who's ever appeared in a photo with him. I did more research in the 3 minutes it took to reach out than his 3-hour video. It's embarrassing. In 2019, the Boogaloo Boys became an official group, and Zane attributes every crime they did to Wendigoon.
Do you remember when armed men were arrested a few years ago for planning the kidnapping of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmire?
Holy shit. it was crazy when I was hanging out with Wendigoon and Turkey Tom. We were actually talking about this, and Wendigoon actually had a huge part in a lot of the coordination behind the scenes on this, which I didn't know initially. This is why I didn't know that he was publicly associated with the Boogaloo Boys in the beginning, because I wouldn't have imagined that he would still be so involved with stuff going on behind the scenes afterwards. Yeah, there was this huge conversation. Me and Turkey Tom had to. Wendigoon usually has it, so if you want to be in like his inner circle of people that I guess like he shares his fucking behind the scenes shit with, I think it's like there's like 5 or 6 different slurs that you have to say. He records you saying them, and then he brings in friends that you say them to. So it's not just you saying a slur, it's you saying the slur to the person that it affects. And then once he has the video footage, he considers you trustworthy enough to let these secrets on. I think one of them was the that Whitmer kidnapping plot. I think he got caught by the investigators when they were doing their research on this, so now he's an informant, so be careful telling him shit about that.
That was the Boogaloos. Do you remember when white people showed up at the George Floyd protests and caused property damage?
Oh no, not white people at the protests. Oh God. Why would he even why not at least just say, why not far right people are Nazis? Why does he say, remember when white people showed up? Why does it, what?
That was the Boogaloos. Do you remember when white people showed up at the George Floyd protests and caused property damage and violence in the hopes that black people would be blamed for that? That was the Boogaloos. He was just like, oh geez, sorry guys, about starting a violent hate group, guys. Sorry that people got killed. I totally didn't mean to do all that. My bad. I'll do better next time.
Am I missing something? Was Wendigoon there? Is there any evidence that he supports any of this? No, it is the most baseless and unhinged analysis I have ever seen. Zane becomes borderline racist towards Wendigoon at times, doxing him.
Wendigoon and I are practically neighbors, and I know this area very well. Okay.
Why would you... That's, I mean, like, he could be talking about the area. Never mind. That just sounds like very ominous. It'd be kind of spooky to me, but maybe it's part of a larger video.
So I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and between that and the reservation, you have the community of Lake Junaluska, which isn't actually even a real town. You can walk across the whole thing in a matter of minutes. You got Waynesville, you have Maggie Valley, and a few other small drive-by communities. And beyond that is the Cherokee Reservation. Wendigoon lives somewhere just on the other side of the reservation.
Okay, that's really weird. Okay.
That is not me doxing him. He has said many times publicly.
What? Like, why?
That he lives in East Tennessee, and I'm not even saying what town he lives in. According to the latest census, there are only 23 black people who live in Maggie Valley. There are 15 Native Americans despite it touching the reservation. Most of this area used to be sundown towns. It is about as white as you could possibly get, genuinely in this part of the country. You have to assume that any white person you meet is racist unless they show you otherwise.
Oh, he's white and he lives...
How do you show otherwise? What do you take out? Like, these are my top 5 favorite rap albums from people who aren't like Kendrick, Kanye, Drake, or J. Cole. These are my top 5 albums outside of the most commercial. And like, if you don't have that list, you're like, what is even? How do you? I'm just so curious what it means. How do you prove that you're not racist? What do you have to? What do you have to do? What does that test look like? Name 10 rappers that aren't Eminem. DMX. Snoop Dogg. Eminem. Fuck! Like...
You have to assume that any white person you meet is racist unless they show you otherwise.
Oh, he's white and he lives there, therefore he's racist. That's the level of critical thinking taking place, but not you. You're one of the good white guys. Oompaville tweeted, imagine shitting on some of the most systemically forgotten and impoverished people in America and thinking you were virtuous or moral because they happen to be white, then getting called out saying, you guys know my heart was in the right place. Zane is a picturesque example of true bigotry masquerading as an enlightened tortured genius that operates with empathy, nuance, and compassion above all else. There are so many of these people, it's so f***ed up how lost some smart people are. He tries to say Wendigoon is a racist for his name, saying he's disrespecting natives for using the word Wendigo.
Then of course, there is his username. To the Algonquin people, the Wendigo is a negative spiritual symbol that is to be avoided and whose name is to never even be said out loud or written down. So I know there's a bit of a hypocrisy there on my part, but we kind of do have to say it for academic purposes, so apologies for that.
There's nothing academic about this video. This is like saying Blizzard can't make Diablo or Harry Potter shouldn't exist because some Christians got upset. Nobody cares.
But don't you think it is extremely weird and off-putting that all of his fans call him Dad? Isn't that really strange?
No? Are you trying to imply something? He never elaborates. He just throws that out there and moves right along. He then acts like Wendigoon following him on Twitter was some sort of psychological threat.
Right in the midst of this going on, a very funny thing happened, and that Wendigoon followed me on Twitter. I was not following him at the time. He never publicly told people to stop calling me a friend. He never once reached out to me privately, but he did follow me.
Wait, but you didn't even reach out to him, and you did a whole ass video on him, no?
means in my eyes that he 100% knew what was happening because I did tweet about it several times, and then followed me to let me know that he knew, and that he was watching, and that he intended to do nothing to stop it. What other motivation could he have had there to follow me in that specific moment?
Like the follows you here is like the fucking Eye of Sauron? What the fuck?
Other than to be a method of quiet and deniable intimidation. What other way could that have been read from my perspective? That was the moment that pushed me over the edge to make this video.
He ends the video by calling everyone Nazis.
Clearly, as we have seen, everything that he does has deep political motivations.
You haven't shown one example.
And if they don't want to be seen as a big group of Nazis, then let's see how they react.
To be clear, this is like a deep form of mental illness. Like, this guy is and it's so annoying because it's on the lefty side of the things. Like, people don't view it the same way, but this is like just as mentally unwell as being like a crazy incel or like a far right, like Nazi race, whatever the like. This person is very mentally unwell.
To this video's existence, because I am certain they will be very level-headed about all of this.
How does he not see the irony in this statement? Wendigoon would leave a comment on his video. Please no one harass or comment rude things on my behalf. I do not agree with or condone meanness in any way. If you are here to leave a spiteful remark on my behalf, don't. Nothing good comes from anger. I want to apologize for people saying awful things to you on Twitter. I did not know this was happening. I followed you because I saw your Slender Man video and enjoyed it. Then I saw you in my recommended follows. It sounds like you strongly dislike me, and that's okay, but if I have done anything to cause that, I apologize. So Zane is schizoing out in the corner, coming up with conspiracy theories about why this is a threat, when in reality, Wendigoon just liked his videos. Even when I DM'd Wendigoon, he was nothing but polite towards Zane, saying I feel bad for him. This guy seems to have...
He's also probably not wrong about gun YouTubers being super far right. He's doing a dog shit job of showing it. Yeah, but like, you have to go one step further too. And this is where people fail, in my opinion, in their criticisms of me as well, is people identify a bad thing about you, but they don't go on to explain. Rarely they do. Sometimes they don't go on to explain how that could impact your analysis, and then none of them do this. They don't go on to list an example of it. So for instance, like an example of this might be Destiny is a wiki warrior. Okay, that doesn't say anything. Okay, it's not even an ad hom. You're not even like discounting an argument. You're just like attacking me. Okay, fine. I'm a wiki warrior, right? You could go one step further and you could say, oh, Destiny is a wiki warrior. Therefore, he doesn't have a strong engagement with the material in a way he would if he read, complete works by people. Oh, okay. Well, it's still not a great criticism because you haven't demonstrated like an application where I've gone wrong in some way. You've attacked me and then you've claimed a potential fault of mine, but you haven't shown that fault. The full criticism is Destiny is a wiki warrior. Okay, number one, that's the flaw, the character flaw. Because he's a wiki warrior, he is unable to engage substantively with the material. Okay, so this is the flaw, then the accusation, and then like the application of that would be, for instance, when Destiny talks about the Nakba, and he's looking at the number of Palestinians that fled, he can only go by on Wikipedia where it talks about people fleeing, but he hasn't engaged with a work that goes over the entire time period that demonstrates that fleeing is more complicated than running away from your village for no reason. There's a whole confounding list of factors for why people might leave, why people might go on other places, and if he would have read a complete work from here to here, he would have a better understanding of that, right? That would be like you've attacked the person, and then you've given like why that deficit of that character makes them unable to examine something, and then you would list an example of the thing that they failed to examine correctly with a better analysis, right? That is like the full criticism. Nobody ever does this of anybody when they're webbing people like this, right? So if Wendigoon is conservative, which I don't even know if he's proven that, but he probably, my guess would be, if he's hanging out with these people. But just because somebody's a conservative, okay, well, how does being a conservative mean that you can't meaningfully engage with horror? Because he's rich, he doesn't understand the themes? Like, you can have empathy for things that you don't always like have firsthand experience with, right? Or sympathy at least, or you can intellectualize, like you can do this. So he needs to say like he's rich, so he can't understand these particular things because it's outside of his lived experiences. And then here's an example of him missing the point in something where his wealth probably precluded him from having this perspective. That would be like the full criticism. But nobody ever fucking does this. It's just cringe. All you have to do is identify like a bad character trait, and then you've done all your work, and then you just move on from it. It feels like it's the equivalent of the black crime statistics meme. Maybe.
Have a lot of hate in his heart, and that can't be easy on the bones. It's clearly not. Zane speaks as if his only purpose in life is to make political horror videos.
The only thing I have of value left to me in this world is my writing and my perspective.
Wendigoon would continue to write, I don't have any malice, and I meant what I said in my comment on the video. I hope nobody harasses him on my behalf. If I make a tweet saying that, however, that'll drive more eyes towards him. And I don't want to do that as a lot of people are mad regardless of what I say. I wish him the best and hope he finds what he's looking for. Zane would then delete the entire Wendigoon section of his video and tweeted, many people have said very fair criticism of my work and that I did not appropriately portray people. And I would like to address that. He apologizes to Brandon Buckingham for pushing his false rape allegations, saying, to be honest, I saw pictures of you with Turkey Tom, donut operator, Wendigoon, and Brandon Herrera, and often with guns in your hand. I wrote you off.
Damn. That's like the web in action right there. The constellation of beliefs in action. It's interesting that people are like so open about obvious like character flaws. Like this is an intellectual and it's a moral failing, in my opinion. It's an intellectual failing because you're failing to consider that people could have a variety of beliefs that you don't completely understand just because you see one thing. And it's a character failing because now you're making big moral judgments against a person for beliefs that you don't even know they have. That's the, where is it? Fuck. He did the thing. He did it perfectly. It's not this. Why do you even have this? Wait, did I delete a thing? Did I delete a whole last thing? No. Wait, did I? Oh no, it's under just strategy. Oh, it's called rhetorical strategy. Never mind, okay. I made another thing. I'm fucking retarded. Do I have the web thing written down in here? One of my evidence of the existence of these constellations. Webbing. When someone hears that you have a belief that's part of another constellation they're aware of, they will instantly assume that you have a plethora of other beliefs immediately, since they're projecting their own adherence to a constellation onto you. And then once they project it, then they start judging you for it, even though you haven't even shown like any particular like inclination towards all these other negative things they're ascribing to you. It's fucking annoying. I can't believe he would just admit this. How old is this guy? I don't know why you would say this out loud.
Hello?
Oh, hi, what's up?
Yo, I just wanted to ask a question. So I've noticed something, because this guy in Praise of Shadows, he seems like throughout the entire video, he's obviously doing a lot of heavy guilt by association. And an observation that I've had, and I want your thoughts on this, is that people who tend to do the guilt by association, it's usually because they don't know many people in their life with like different views than their own. So like to them, when someone has views that they don't like, or like they talk to people with views that they don't like, that's like the worst thing ever, I feel like, because they don't have any varying, like people in their life with varying views themselves, you know? So like they can't comprehend why someone else would.
Kind of a little bit, yeah. I think what happens is I think that there's a lane that you can be in for beliefs that you're allowed to have in your group, and if somebody veers outside of that lane, then they would probably be excluded by your group. So you would assume that somebody veering outside of that lane has no shared beliefs with you whatsoever, and then you would just ascribe to them all the beliefs in another group. So if I'm in like a very, very progressive group, and there's a guy that likes, I'll be more general, a guy that really wants Donald Trump to win the next election, if he has that belief, you're going to instantly assume that he can't possibly share any other beliefs because he's never going to be in a group like yours, because none of your people would accept a person like that. So then you would stick him in another group, and you would assume that almost all other beliefs are opposite of yours. That's generally how it goes. And then people will just, assume like down the line of all the beliefs that they want to ascribe to you from that group of people.
Mm-hmm. And you would be friends with people with like wildly different views than your own, right?
Personally, I would be, but I'm in a unique situation in that one, personally, I'm like kind of on my own. I'm on an island, and then community-wise on the internet, my community is on its own and it's on an island. So I have a lot more flexibility there to explore friendships like that, whereas other people are going to be a lot more constrained by the social groups that they exist in.
Let me think about that. Okay. Yeah, I get what you mean. But like if... But I feel like it's one thing for that just to be the case, but then for you to like go out and shame people for their connections is like, that's like just really bad, because the reason you're on an island is because no one else is like behaving that way in general. Like I feel like a lot of the people, like whether that would be in online political spaces or adjacent, like this guy, the In Praise of Shadows, who's not like politics, but it's like movie review through a political lens. Like they sort of have that behavior as well. And so like, I feel like it's like really bad that that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem I would say with stuff like this is that the political bubbles, the political groups have like, I guess like bubbled out or blossomed out into everything. So now if you're doing art reviews, or if you're playing video games on the internet, or if you like, I don't know, if you're a fucking bricklayer, you're supposed to be part of these huge groups now. And then people will assume down the line a whole bunch of beliefs you have, depending on like what your friend group looks like or what you're publicly stating or whatever. And it's like, really, it doesn't need to be that way. Like it's not necessary that Wendigoon needs to have hardcore political opinions that are a part of his work. He's a movie reviewer, unless he does it with like a super political bend. So yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah. And I feel like just that being this sort of a guilt by association, like outside of political spaces, is like really bad. Like I don't know, like that's one thing that I think is super good about your community is that, well, not only like, do you speak with people who are vastly different in terms of ideas, but that it doesn't seem like you've done much like guilt by association, just in general. Like it seems like you're willing to unravel people's views pretty intricately.
Yeah, I am. But again, a lot of that is because I've like spent a lot of deliberate time creating my own community. For a lot of people, there's a lot of reasons why this is really hard to do. One is because they might have pre-existing connections or friend groups. So they might like come from a community and they don't want to cut off all ties from it. Two is geographically, they might be part of a group. So if you're a content creator in Austin or whatever, you're probably going to be friends with other content creators in Austin. And then three is if they're not big enough on their own, they might not be able to handle getting attacked by other communities. So I'm sure, or I don't know how much you follow the other commentary guys, but you probably noticed that people like Hassan and all the lefties will dogpile people like Turkey Tom or Willie Mack because of like vague association with me. They like see me everywhere behind some of these people. So imagine if Willie Mack was like a 5,000 subscriber YouTuber, that might be a lot of extra negative attention to bear. That's not commensurate with like the amount of money he's making on YouTube. It's like I make like $200 a month on YouTube, and now I've got people like Hassan, like barreling at me with his entire fucking community. That might be really hard. So it's easy to just not talk about that stuff or kind of shy away from it. It's very hard to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's bad, obviously, like on like a personal like relationship level. Like, maybe if like you meet someone and then they discover like, oh, like you've collaborated with this guy, then like I think it's bad to shut out communication with them because of like a collaboration they've done. Obviously, within reason, like if it, depending on the collaboration, if it's like egregious,
sure.
then of course, you're free to do that. But I think also like if you are like doing what this guy's doing, like to your audience, I don't know, it just comes across like kind of like brainwashing, honestly. It's like you're prepping them to dismiss people's opinions because of like it's just fucking crazy that he goes like, oh, Wendigoon follows a guy who liked this tweet. Like that's just like deranged in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how people do it, right? Yeah. People will see that you have like a flag in your profile, that you posted a black square for BLM, that you follow a certain content creator, that you retweeted a certain thing, that and then people will group you in with a whole bunch of everybody does this. It's pretty common. I do this to people sometimes. I try not to, but I usually try to at least fact check at the end, like, does this person actually think this, or can we find a video of it? But yeah, I mean, that's largely how people operate. It's how the social groups are cohesive, which isn't even necessarily a bad thing. The only bad thing is that social groups are so large now that like people from Central California to upstate New York need to have like the exact same political opinions on things, when in reality the group should probably be a lot smaller.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's just an observation that I had. I don't know. I'm glad you tend to agree. Anyway.
Yeah.
See ya.
Have fun. Bye.
Saw pictures of you with Turkey Tom, Donut Operator, Wendigoon, and Brandon Herrera, and often with guns in your hand. I wrote you off. I did not feel like you were worth my time. And that was a result of the company you keep. Ultimately, that is a failing on me, though, and how I presented that. It's such a backhanded apology. Him having a gun does not make him a bad person. He goes, Brandon used homophobic language towards me through calling me a low testosterone freak. I don't even know.
That's homophobic? Don't you think like low T would be like a boost if you wanted to be like a super femboy or whatever? Could be a compliment.
Make him a bad person. He goes, Brandon used homophobic language towards me through calling me a low testosterone freak. I don't even know how that's homophobic. What, are you on estrogen? He then goes on to Mudahar. Your thumbnail art was trans.
Even being on estrogen wouldn't necessarily make it homophobic. Maybe transphobic? Maybe? Would you argue that the constellation of beliefs is a default of human nature? It seems to be the case that the constellation should be useful for preserving communal relationships. Yeah, I don't think the constellation of beliefs is bad. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It might be a little bit suboptimal, but I think it's fine for most people. The problem is just that the groups of people have gotten so huge. Like there being like a special community of people that live in a block in Chicago that all have like a hugely shared set of cultural beliefs or whatever, it's probably fine. The problem is that those groups have gotten so huge that demanding that much congruency between that many different types of people living in that many different areas becomes really toxic really fast, I think.
transphobic. I have nothing else to say to that. No explanation, no argument. He just goes on to play victim. I was overcome with anger because I think it's incredibly dangerous that there is a man in horror that you cannot criticize without being called the F slur for days on end. I think that is a serious issue. Then talk about that. Maybe you could work something out instead of coming up with conspiracies about him and his friends. I also think it's telling that the bulk of what I said has not actually been addressed at all. Bro, you haven't said anything based in reality. I feel like people have addressed you very clearly. He blames all of his problems on conservatives and says that he's taking down that part of the video as well as taking a month off. I thought you lived paycheck to paycheck. How are you taking a month off? This guy cannot be real. If you felt like you have been mischaracterized, that was not my intention, and I genuinely am sorry. Just to be perfectly clear, every single person you mentioned feels like they were mischaracterized. I care so much about horror. It is my life. I grew tired and scared of seeing hate growing on the fringe of something I care so deeply about. Horror is about kindness. Horror is about love. Until next time, Zane. Bro, what are you talking about? This video was so hateful. He posted a similar message on his Patreon talking about how tricky it is to talk about cultural appropriation as a white man and that he only meant to do good with his slanderous video. He then took down his YouTube video completely and made a community post where he apologizes but then acts like the victim, saying, I do think it's dangerous. These creators don't acknowledge the obvious situation.
What do these people do for an entire month? That's a good question. Bro, when I'm not streaming, if I'm like not actively working, well, maybe that's an ADHD thing. I don't know. The idea of just like sitting around doing nothing, it seems, well, they probably don't sit around and do nothing. They must do something.
At play. He'd delete this too because his own community disagrees with him. The reason people say too much politics rots your brain is because you start to view people in terms of teams instead of judging them as individuals. Suddenly, everybody who owns a gun is a gun-crazed fascist.
Gun YouTuber, a gun-obsessed content creator, gun-crazed, very far-right YouTuber.
Everybody who supports the police for stopping child abuse is a bootlicker.
The only thing that one could reasonably gather from this picture of them hugging is that he too is a fascist bootlicker himself.
It's important to remember that you most likely have more in common with your Republican or
Destiny, in your notes, you said that webbing is a projection of their own adherence to a constellation. Can't you web without adhering to one yourself? You yourself can assume people's beliefs, even though you correct it later, without necessarily being a part of a constellation. Yeah, but I think the problem is when people web, usually they're doing it way too aggressively, and they're not open to having their minds changed. That's the big problem. Or to them, it's incomprehensible that somebody could have a belief system that they can't see like an obvious constellation. And a really good example was the guy addicted to weed that was arguing with me a few days ago, who said he was like a high school debater, who was saying things like, destiny is completely, what was the word he used? I don't remember. He said that there's no way that I could possibly have like some pro-social I think, did he call them socialist beliefs in like healthcare, but then be against like BLM or something? I don't remember the exact examples, but he took 2 or 3 things and I was like, how can destiny be pro like workers' rights, but anti, like expropriation of corporations to workers? These weren't the examples, but he was saying like it was incomprehensible. Like he couldn't understand it. It was impossible. It was impossible for him to understand that, which is evidence of like you're adhering way too strictly to a whole set of beliefs, and you can't imagine that somebody could have some that overlap with you and some that don't, which is a failure. Not even of imagination. That's an intellectual failure, I think.
Democrat neighbor than you do with Hassan or Andrew Tate. These people's brands thrive off the vision, and I genuinely believe Zane is a product of that. Hopefully this is his wake-up call.
So essentially, does that mean that you can web without adhering to constitutional beliefs? But if you do adhere to constitutional beliefs, you'll do it more aggressively. When I think of webbing, I'm thinking of webbing as like an intentional thing, not a thing that you do. So if somebody comes up to me like, yeah, I'm a big gun guy, I like trucks or whatever, I'm like, okay, this guy probably votes for Trump, right? There's a difference between me hearing a few things and then assuming some things about a person versus trying to use proxies to like tag a guy with something, right? This guy just told me that he's into guns and trucks. He's probably a Trump fan. I don't think that's like webbing somebody. Now, if I look at a guy and I'm like, hold on, what kind of car do you drive? And he's like, oh, I have a Chevy Silverado. You are a f***ing Trump voter, right? That's like more webbing, I think, because you're like, you're hunting for like proxy beliefs in an attempt to stick them on the web somewhere so you can get to the center. Like, I knew you're a Trump supporter, right? And then you're also like you're resistant to actually having your mind changed as well. Like, oh, you say that you believe this and that, but you don't believe this? No way. There's an impossible. You can't possibly, that can't be the case. You believe these 3 or 4 things, but you don't believe this thing. No shot, right? I think that's like the difference, I would say.
If not, just another cow to add to the herd. Yeehaw! Subscribe to the channel. Eat some goddamn cereal.
I don't know if you saw my last message, but wouldn't breaking yourself into a smaller subgroup like Southern liberals or something mitigate the idea of a cross-nationwide group having to adhere to the exact same expectations? Yeah, but that doesn't happen now, I think, because of the internet. You inhabit too much of the same spaces, so you are demanding the same congruity that you would with somebody that's right next to you. That's why you get people like Hassan who will shit on the Georgia Democratic senators as not real Democrats, because to them, a Georgia senator who's a Democrat should have the exact same beliefs as a New York representative, AOC. they should be the exact same because they're both like part of the same group. That's how people see it when they're on the internet, because the internet makes all the groups seem a lot closer than they actually are.